Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MTG Goldfish Podcast, episode 151, your weekly podcast covering everything Magic the Gathering related. You can find us on Google Play, iTunes, mtggoldfish.com, and YouTube. Joining, as always, the crew, Richard, the owner of MTG Goldfish. What is up, Richard?
Hey, guys, what's going on?
How are you, Richard? Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, our resident Jank Brewer and all-around content creator. Seth, how are you?
Doing well. How are you guys this week?
Doing well, too. Chaz, as always, covering the financial aspect of the game and all-around content creator for Magic the Gathering. All right, to business, to the normal day-to-day stuff. We are back to, there was a really awesome announcement that, some view it as awesome, some view it as potentially going crazy, but they are now trying out, a trial period of silver border cards, now legal in Commander, and this is until the next banned list update, and that is on January 15th. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a kind of a series, The Great Designer Search 3, going on Wizards of the Coast, so we're going to touch on that, and a lot of fish mail. We always get a lot of fish mail, so this week is a great week. We can kind of devote a lot of time to answering everyone's questions. Everything's going to start getting crazy due to the holidays, so we like to try and address that as much as possible. So, Richard, navigate us through this crazy announcement in Commander.
Okay, so the EDH Rules Committee, an independent body, it's not actually WotC, they control the Commander ban list, and they announced all silver border cards will be legal in Commander until the next ban list update, which is January 15th. So this includes the brand new set Unstable, the previous unsets Unhinged and Unglued, and also the holiday cards that WotC puts out. I think those are all the silver border cards. So they released them all into EDH. There's a couple of cards banned right off the bat. They're cards that are weird, like Ashnod's Coupon and stuff like that, but there's only a handful of them. And then they also revealed a list of cards to be careful of, which is, depending on your play group, you may or may not want to play them. Basically, until January 15th, all silver bordered cards legal in Commander. What do you guys think?
Yeah, really quickly, the ban list, or the cards that are not, going to be partaking in this kind of craziness and unbanning. Ashnod's Coupon, Double Cross, Double Deal, Double Dip, Double Play, Double Take, Enter the Dungeon, Magical Hacker, Mox Lotus, Once More with Feeling, R&D's Secret Lair, Richard Garfield, Staying Power, Time Machine, and one was added a day later, Nerf War, for obvious reasons, because everyone seemed very concerned that
did
their
they
decks
even
were...
add Nerf War? Like,
Yeah.
Is that officially on the
They
list
did,
now? 'Cause
like,
it
as a
sounded like they were like,
postmortem.
oh, it's not really added, but be nice with it.
they added it post-mortem, like Richard said, like a day after.
So SEG came out and said, hey, for our Commander events this weekend, we are not supporting unsets. This change was too soon. Plus, we don't want people's cards getting damaged by Nerf War. That's what they basically said. So for the big tournaments this weekend, unsets were not legal. And then the Rules Committee added Nerf War to the list.
I think this was a horrible decision. I do not understand what they are thinking. So I would have rather them approach it from the other direction and said, our play group wants to check out these silver bordered cards. Here's some of the cards that we're going to be playing with and testing. If your play group is interested in using silver bordered cards in Commander, we say go for it. Here's what we're using. Here's the cards that we have banned. Check it out and see what you think of it. But I feel like making it, codifying this as an actual rule is just a really, really bad decision. And it's even more insane that it's only till the next ban list, which means it's only for 6 weeks. I don't understand why you would just mess up the format for a 6-week period, knowing that they're going to go back to being banned. So I don't know. I was thinking this was just a stunt to try to sell more unstable cards, and it was a lot of Wizards influence, but I don't know. They said that it wasn't Wizards who came to the decision, although when they bounced it off Wizards, they were certainly stoked about the decision and they liked the idea. It was how they put it. So I don't know what they're thinking with this.
Yeah.
I think it was a horrible idea.
I was a little skeptic too, Seth. I mean, it just kind of lined up a little too well, but I'm going to take them for at their word that they didn't kind of discuss this to do this just to sell unstable boxes. I think Wizards knows very well, even in the past, like this is what they get with these kind of silver bordered sets. It is what it is. But I was in that line of thinking too, Seth, that I don't know why that they would just go at it from this route rather than trying to specifically test cards that could actually be included at some point and that they're not really problematic. But maybe they just continue to do that on their own, and this is just sort of a, hey, for the next 6 weeks, we're just going to try to get as much feedback, as much data as possible from everyone, and maybe that ends up being really beneficial to them when everyone's saying, hey, listen, like Grusilda, or some of the cards that we discussed, like Stormcrow or Crowstorm, these cards are fine. Like, we played with them. Everyone seemed to enjoy them. They don't really break the game too much, and I think they can actually be legal in the format, going forward.
Yeah, so I get what they were trying to do, right? Like, there are a lot of cool cards. Here's a good chance to play silver bordered cards. But in practice, this just does not work because the whole point of the rules committee is to set some, baseline for all players to follow. If you have your own play group, it doesn't matter what these guys say. If you know everyone, you can be like, hey, Seth, do you want to play with these cards? Okay, sure, right? The whole point is when you show up at a Grand Prix, you know what to expect. And by doing this, it forces all kinds of issues. One, not everyone wants to play with like cards like Nerf War. I don't want to bring a Nerf gun to a Grand Prix and try to shoot things, right? Like, that's weird. But two, it makes me buy all these cards that I'm going to need to be competitive for 6 weeks and then throw them all away. So there's just all kinds of problems with forcing this weird baseline. And there are cards that are just like super broken that everyone's going to jam into their decks, and it's just going to cause like a weird environment. So I don't agree with just applying this to all players. This should have been playgroup on a playgroup per playgroup basis. Like, hey, what do you guys want to play with? Do you think this is fine? I know our group just plays janky cards. I can play this. Or, I know my group is all spiky, so we'll play this. It's fine. But this is just everyone has to play these cards now. And the general consensus from the community is a lot of people are just going to skip EDH for 6 weeks, right? They'll only play with their friends. What's the point of showing up at a Grand Prix and then getting smacked around by a bunch of silver bordered cards or, doing dumb stuff that you don't want to when it's going to go away January 15th, right? So it's kind of like if they just made Black Lotus legal in Legacy for like 6 weeks. Like, well, I guess I go buy a Black Lotus now, right? Or I'm just not going to play Legacy for 6 weeks, right? Like, it's just weird. And it really seems like some weird ploy to sell silver bordered cards, but Wizards has no hand in this, right? Like, it's not them who decided this. And I believe them when they said they wouldn't jeopardize their position in the community to pull such a stunt, the EDH Rules Committee. So this just seems like I don't know, like good intentions, but I didn't really think it through decision.
And I mean, they obviously couldn't have tested these cards very much because they're not even in print yet, and we just got the whole spoiler like a week ago. So it's not like there was some rigorous testing process where they were like, okay, we think this is going to work out. It sounds like they just were like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And they're like, yeah, sure, yeah, why not?
That's exactly what the announcement was. I mean, I think it was just trying to be a lighthearted, hey, it's this time of year, let's all try to just have fun and, enjoy your holidays and play these crazy cards.
And that works on like a playgroup by playgroup basis.
Sure.
Like, I think it's a great thing to encourage playgroups to do that, but when you're looking at like FNMs not FNMs, but tournaments at local game stores where they run Commander events or GP events, that's when the situation gets a little sticky, because I don't know. There was a lot in the second announcement especially that was kind of like, well, just like, the intention of this, everyone be nice and be on your best behavior. And I don't know if I trust that if I go to play with random people, that everyone's going to treat it that way. Like, if it's my play group and it's who I play with on Commander Clash, yeah, sure, we're all going to have fun with it. But with a bunch of random people at a local game store at a GP, do I really trust that everyone's just gonna like be on their best behavior with these silver border cards? I don't really know. So I wish I just wish they'd approach it from the other direction and encourage people to play silver bordered rather than making it a rule that you can play silver bordered.
Yeah. I mean, I can only talk from like experiences from where the stores I've played. I don't think. Yeah, I think everyone can participate in this without getting obnoxious, but because no one wants their cards damaged or anything like that or anything crazy like that. So I think overall people will, and Magic players that will partake in this kind of event, at least for the few weeks that it's legal, they'll be fine with it. But I can see that it can get kind of crazy when you're playing with players that you don't normally play with. I do get that aspect, but I think overall it's fine. I think it can be really fun. And like you said, Seth, I mean, yeah, maybe they could have went to the playgroup by playgroup basis, and I'm sure you guys will have fun with it. But I think overall people can still play like at their FNM and local gaming stores because mostly those folks anyway.
So here's the
It
best.
only takes one.
It only takes one
maybe
person
GP
to
gets
wreck
a
it
little
all.
bit
Nerf blaster.
But here's the best strategy I've heard for dealing with this. You carry 3 decks with you, okay? You carry a normal pre-silver bordered spike deck. This is, you sit down at the cutthroat table and you all kill each other by turn 2. You carry a non-silver bordered janky deck. This is for low powered, have fun. You're playing people with precons and stuff. And then thirdly, you carry your silver border deck in case people will actually play with silver bordered cards. And that way, no matter what's at your play group, you're ready to go and you have a deck at the appropriate level. Because a lot of people think that a lot of people will just say no silver bordered cards, so they're going to carry their normal decks with them anyway. So that way you have all your bases covered. Which I don't know about carrying 300 card double sleeve decks with me. But yeah, that's what you got to do now until January 15th.
Yeah. Oh, man. And I also feel bad for the people who are going to buy these cards, knowing full well that you can't play them after January 15th. So I don't know. I feel that part of it really bothers me. If you're a new-ish Commander player, you should be buying Soul Rings and Solemn Simulacrums and those type of cards, and not like, oh, Griselda that's a really cool card. I'm going to spend my Commander budget on that. And then, yeah, that's awesome for the next 6 weeks. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that it just doesn't sit right with me overall. And it also makes me a little sad because I feel like some of the cards, especially from Unstable, would be good to be legal long-term in Commander, but the way they went about it, I feel like reduces the chances that people are going to be accepting of it over the long term. Some of the cards that would be sweet to have in Commander.
I'll tell you what, I'll buy Griselda. I'm holding out hope. I don't care if I waste my money, but yeah, it's tough to say, but from what I've seen, I mean, I'm trying to remain optimistic here, but from what I've seen, all I've heard is kind of groaning and like, oh, well, I guess I won't be playing Commander all too much, but hopefully, folks can have fun with it.
Yeah, surprisingly very poor reaction to this announcement. Like, every thread I've seen is people kind of poo-pooing on this and not really anyone standing up for this. And I'm not sure why, because on the surface, it's cool to play with silver bordered cards.
I think on the surface, overall, like, without going into it negative, I think folks can have a good time overall. But I can understand the kind of apprehension there.
So do you think this just totally undermines the EDH Rules Committee's authority? I know a lot of people after Saheeli Rai and whatnot were like, yeah, WotC shouldn't control any of this. We should give it to a third party. Look at EDH. They're fine. Does this make you question putting the control of Magic in the hands of non-Wizards people?
Well, no, because yeah, it's always like when something bad happens, we go to Wizards, and I've been guilty of that. But at the same time, an announcement like this would have never happened, especially at this point, because then the huge backlash is, oh, well, then Wizards just doing this to sell packs. So then something like this probably would have never happened at all.
I'm still not convinced that Wizards didn't play a big part in this, because we just had the huge thing with Moto not being the Moto multiplayer commander not lining up with paper. And one of the big things from that was like, oh, we're going to work closer with the rules committee to make sure like Moto and paper are lining up. So that was just like 6 months ago. So I feel like there's a pretty strong relationship there. So I'm not trying to be all like tinfoil hat, but
we're going there now, Seth. So we just traced the Bitcoin transactions back to the rules committee, right?
I just feel like, I think the reason people are upset is they feel like Commander is supposed to be the place where you kind of like the libertarian format of Magic. Like you do whatever's good, everyone else does whatever's good with their play group, and they don't like people telling them how they're supposed to play their Commander decks. Like it's supposed to be about house rules and individual play groups. So I think seeing such a big rules change essentially, or card pool change, just rubs old, like longtime Commander players the wrong way. Because I feel like this is our format. It's supposed to be like player driven, player run, and I don't want these Commander rules committee overlords telling me how to play my Commander.
I mean, to be fair, even the existing ban list before silver bordered cards makes no sense whatsoever. Right? Like, if you look at some of the cards that are on and are not on the ban list, you're just like, huh? And you can tell it's kind of tailored to their play group, that it's not universal. So even before this, the ban list was, big asterisks take with a grain of salt. So it's not that surprising that, something weird like this happens.
Yeah, because, Sol Ring's not on there still.
Oh man, you thought the comments to last week's podcast were rough. If you say Sol Ring should be banned, we're in for some rough comments. That's one thing I've learned on Twitter. If you want to get people mad at you, just say they should ban Sol Ring.
Really? It's that controversial?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh man, people get up in
arms. It's like probably the hottest of hot topics ever imagined.
They
doesn't
can't
even
ban it because they need to print it in every
Commander
product. WotC will not approve of this.
I mean, yeah, it would. At this point, I mean, I don't really care anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I think people can have fun with this. That's my whole thing. Maybe from this we can see some silver bordered cards become legal, because I do think there are a couple that can make it, and they aren't like completely crazy.
All right. To wrap this up, financially, does this mean anything for Unstable?
I mean, we've already been seeing it.
Did it, should I be holding boxes of Unstable for actual cards instead of lands now?
It's tough to say. I do think the boxes they're cheap enough, like they're at a normal price enough that it's fine, especially if you want to draft it and like play it amongst, friends and whatever, but I think all of the unsets after time have increased, so I don't know what the supply is looking like. I couldn't really find a definitive answer on that. I think there was like a vague a post on Tumblr from Marrow saying that this is just like it's not like going to be continuously printed. It'll just kind of just be like a normal release and that's it. But you never know. I mean, once they say that, then you find out that there's like reorders upon reorders of everything. So I just don't know. This is certainly more supply than any of the unsets in the past. So
yeah, I think we gotta. I don't imagine this having a huge financial impact. I think if people are gonna play silver border cards, they were gonna do it anyway, and I can't imagine too many people are going to like buy a ton of silver border cards based on this announcement. And the supply thing, we just don't know. We'll have to see. I'll be curious to see if we have unstable packs at Walmarts and Targets and stuff. I think that'll be one of the big determining factors as far as how big the supply actually is.
Okay, moving on. It turns out that Wizards wants to delve deep into the past and release something closer to the Magic 25th anniversary, and they are bringing back the Great Designer Search. So this is the third installment in this kind of reality type show that is not really, it's not a show, it's just a bunch of articles. And the way they laid it out is that you could look at the article, but it's going to be design challenges, one every other week, and at the end of each challenge, one contestant will be eliminated. At the end of 5 challenges, 3 contestants will remain. The final 3 contestants will be flown to Wizards of the Coast's office for a day-long event, including a final live challenge. The winner will be crowned and awarded a 6-month internship position with Wizards. So, crew, let's do it. 3 left, we get an internship. Oh no.
So this is basically a reality
wanted to
TV show, but
Yeah.
no episodes, just articles,
One
right?
final episode. You get 1 episode at the end.
Wait, there is no episode whatsoever, right?
Yeah, it's a final live challenge.
No. That
Yeah,
just
but-
means they do the challenge live with Watsy.
Oh no.
I think it's really cool, but I wish they actually just ran it on their YouTube channel and really
Yeah.
made it a reality show. I think that would make it much more entertaining. But they've had some good success with this in the past. Like, there's a bunch of people that did these, not just the winners, but like runner-ups
Yeah.
and other contestants that have got hired. Some of the mechanics, like Evolve came out of it. The reverse looting for Red, the discard then draw came out of the Great Designer Search. So we definitely see good things happening from this contest. So even though I wish they would go more towards a real TV show on the YouTube channel, I think it's going to be a good thing overall.
Me too. I always kind of like when they, we've been part of community making, the community makes the card in the past. I think this is really good. This is overall a net positive that we see some good things come from these. So I'll be tuning in, even though you don't really tune in, you kind of just read about it. So it's a lot less exciting. Reading about it. And, hopefully, we get to see some cool stuff end up on cards in the future.
I got to ask you, are you guys going to compete in the Great
Let's
Designer
do it. We
Search?
could go in as there's 3. They choose 3, right? So it could legitimately be us 3.
Yeah,
They
okay.
could.
But we get an internship and an intern. I'm not too thrilled.
Cue
about an
the rollback of us evaluating cards from every spoiler season.
If we just had a montage of that, like, let's do it, and then like, yeah, this card is awesome, and then never sees play, and this card is great, then never sees play, and
I would just submit like a variant of Blood Moon for each challenge, like read over the rules and then make it as Blood Moon like as possible, and be like, all right, there we go.
I would just make a derivative of every Planeswalker I said was going to be awesome, and and just never saw the light of day.
Oh yeah, how's Jace Cunning Castaway doing, Chaz?
TBD. TBD. There's just a, that card is $5. I cannot believe that. I don't
It makes
know
a
about that.
phantasmal bear.
I don't know about that
Phantasmal
one.
bear.
Hey, speaking of unstuff, when you see those abilities on the like gigantic Jace that they made, like, that actually seems pretty ridiculous. Like, you actually like when you look at those 3 abilities in general, especially the ultimate, you're like, wow, that was a Jace. And then you look, I think, at the 3-mana Jace, you're like, oh.
So, were you guys around for Designer Search 2? Like, as a player, is this relevant to me in any way whatsoever, aside from getting a article each week about design? Like, is this just not
Yeah.
Maro's design article every week now? Like, do I care about this in any way if I'm not a designer?
I do think this is relevant to players because, like Seth said, we have seen at least some of the mechanics come from these types of, from these articles. So I think it might not be relevant now, but it will be relevant later on in the future. Because I do think they've stated that, like Seth said, that, yeah, this directly came from this.
I do remember the last Great Designer Search, and I thought it was fairly entertaining. I thought the articles were entertaining to see, like, not just the cards that people submitted and made, but also, like, the problems and kind of, like, criticism of some of the cards. So I think if you're interested in design and you like that stuff, it's a pretty entertaining article series, but other than some of the stuff that comes from the Great Designer Search eventually filtering into actual Magic cards, I think it's mostly just entertainment value if you're not competing or interested in it.
All right, so that will be interesting. Keep a thumbnail on that one. Other than that, is there anything too crazy? I think those were our really two main topics because we have a pretty good amount of fish mail to address.
Yeah, if we talk about standard, I'll just complain about energy for 10 minutes, so we should probably avoid
No,
that.
you don't want to talk about World
Fair.
Magic Cup and SCG Invitational this weekend?
It was like 90% energy, so unless we want a 10-minute rant.
So, all right, no rant, but question. All right, is there going to be any changes before Rivals?
I doubt it.
Is seeing
No.
66% of day 2 being energy, like, what's the breaking point? 90? 95? Like, literally
I don't
every
think,
deck?
I think it could be that high of a breaking point because there's literally a set around the corner. I just don't think they do something right now.
I mean, Christmas is around the corner. That's it. Like, no one's gonna be in the office. No one's gonna care to make these big changes. Heck, no one's gonna be playing Magic, right? Because everyone's doing their holiday stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then New Year's rolls around, and then you got Rivals. So I can't see them doing anything before Rivals.
I'm with Richard on this one.
So, what about Quick Hook after Rivals? Like, because it seems like having another Ixalan in the sense that the set just doesn't see play in standard because energy's 60% of the format or whatever, like, is probably not where they want to be because just for, like, finances and actually selling the set, what's the purpose to buy Rivals of Ixalan if you just keep playing your energy deck that you've had built for a year now? Like, will there be a Quick Hook post Rivals and like the postmodern Pro Tour BNR? Like, if it's the same as this, are you expecting a change?
So it's Rivals, then the 5 weeks, and then it's Modern Pro Tour.
Modern, yeah.
And is there a banning? I can't remember the schedule off the top of my head, so I apologize.
There is
but
a banning before, but they said that they wouldn't change Modern during that ban list, but they were looking at changing Modern post
right.
Pro Tour.
So there
in
is a
February.
ban list
You mean
before
Modern or Standard?
the Modern Pro Tour.
Yes, there is one before and then one after.
My guess is it would be after the Modern Pro Tour. Although, since it's changing standard, they could do it pre-Modern Pro Tour too. So probably one of those.
They have to do it before the release of Rivals, like as early as possible, so people actually buy the new cards.
Yeah, I can
And
see that. So
because the Pro Tour is modern, it doesn't matter what happens at the Pro Tour.
Right,
You're not gonna
that's
get any
true.
new data. So I would think if they are serious about banning energy, they would do it as soon as possible in their next regularly scheduled slot, which would be
right after Rivals.
the release of Rivals, so that people actually buy the Rivals cards.
All right, yeah, I can buy that. I can see that.
But do you think they're gonna do it? We keep saying we'll wait and see, and we waited quite a while, and we saw the same thing.
The only thing is like that's the only reason I initially said after is because how do you go ahead and ban something when you don't even know if this set will make a difference? I mean, are we just saying that Rivals is just going to make no difference at all?
That's what they did for. What was the last thing they banned?
Was it Marvel?
No, Saheeli Rai combo.
Okay.
It was like right at the release of a new set, right?
True.
In the set, which they printed a bunch of answers as well, and they're just
Okay.
like, whatever, no risks, right? We're just gonna ban it.
All right. So yeah, then I guess if it's they're going to do it, it should be then.
I'm on the fence as to what they're going to do. I don't really know. I haven't heard, like, as much of an outcry over energy as I remember from the past bannings with, like, Saheeli Rai and Felidar Guardian and some of the broken decks we had in the past. So I'm actually not sure if they'll change anything or not. I am right in the middle. Personally, I really dislike energy and think that it probably should be banned, but I can see Wizards' justification of, like, the community's not freaking out. It's not a inherently broken deck where you just lose on turn 4. And we don't really have the numbers on FNMs and stuff. Like, if attendance is dropping and whatnot, then maybe, but I just don't have enough information to know. And I think Wizards probably has more information than I do. So I think that would be what would make a change. But what is your perception? Has it felt like people are upset about energy to you? Because it hasn't really, like,
I don't either.
felt
You're
that
right.
way to me, really.
You're definitely right. It's not nearly in a spot where it was with people talking about Marvel and Saheeli and all that stuff. So unless, I mean, people are just kind of like over it and they don't care, or they just kind of accepted that, you know, Energy's a good deck and that's pretty much it. There are other decks to play. We have seen other decks, you know, perform well enough, but maybe
like Energy with Pummeler.
yeah. And
I think people are just sick of it. I think because we've gone through so much complaining about bannings that people are just apathetic now.
yeah, so
Because
unless
we
it's-
went from
it's that.
Emrakul to Marvel to Saheeli Rai, and then now we're just like, whatever, and let's go play Modern.
So people are
Like,
just
that's what
used to
people are
standard
saying, right? They're
crap.
just like, I'm not going to bother with Standard. Let's just talk about Modern and Commander. Like, that's
Let's
kind of the
just
conversation.
Go play Unstable and Commander.
So the real question is, even though people are complaining, are they still going to FNM? That's the real question, right? And I suspect that they're not, right?
That's just
we'll see.
that actually makes me laugh. That's how bad it's gotten. Like, it's let's go play silver bordered cards and Commander over playing Standard. Like,
I mean, Energy could have been a silver bordered mechanic. New resource.
Energy fuels contraptions.
Oh God.
Oh
Don't go
my
there.
goodness. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. I guess that's probably why we haven't heard an outcry, is that people are just kind of over it. And it is the holiday season. I don't think anything that is, you know, everything that is really kind of going on right now, is pretty much just getting glossed over. That people don't really, you know, Magic players in general in the community, they don't want to kind of deal with any of this stuff. They just kind of want to enjoy themselves and spend time with, you know, people they care about.
And
so.
I think we're hitting the dead season. We had the Invitational,
yeah.
we had World Magic Cup, so I don't think much like national or worldwide level Magic goes on until after the holidays now. I think we've hit the dead point of the season, so maybe that'll, I don't know, keep people's minds off of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going into like a 2-month lull because Unstable releases this Friday, which is December 8th. And then the next thing we have is January 19th with Rivals of Ixalan. So,
But I think spoilers will start like January 1st or as soon as Wizards comes back from holidays. So we get like a kind of this month off, I think. For the next month, it'll probably be pretty dead. And then we'll
Hooray.
have spoiler season.
Yeah, month breather. A break. All right. Let's answer some fish mail.
all right, if you have questions, send them to the hashtag MDGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. So, first question from Mumu Marley. Iconic Masters foils of Thoughtseize are currently $100 plus or minus 10 on TCG Player. Do you see them dropping, or is that it?
I don't think they'll drop too much. They might drop a little bit more, but that does kind of seem like a stable spot for them, and I don't see them dipping too much more.
I mean, the original Lorwyn are like 400, and buy lists are like 50 for the Iconic Masters version. So if it does go down, maybe like to 80 or something, but I don't even know if it'll go down that far. So I think that you're right. I think around $100 is probably pretty safe over the short term.
All right, next question. R. Sassveld. I recently come back to Magic after 5 years or so. I was curious as to what happened to blackborder.com. Used to enjoy their articles. Anyone know what blackborder.com
No idea.
is or was?
Don't know. I apologize.
I remember blackborder.com.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened to
No idea what
blackborder.com.
It was updated
remember-
as of April this year, so it hasn't been gone too long, but I have no idea what blackborder.com actually is.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. I still type Brainburst when I want to go to TCG Player, though.
Wait, TCG Player used to be
yes.
Brainburst?
Yes. Yes. It
Yeah.
Wow.
And they
I didn't
actually
know
used
that.
to actually have an active forum and stuff. It was kind of
Before they became like they were like a content site, right?
Yeah.
And prices and stuff, but they didn't sell cards like they do
Nope.
now, or not to the same extent.
Yeah, it was completely different back then.
Huh. Does it still work if you go to brainburst.com?
Yeah,
Yes.
it'll take you
It
to
redirects
the
you.
magic.tcg player, yeah.
Interesting. All right, next question. Interplanar MTG. What's your favorite keyword mechanic in Standard? Mine would be Enrage because it creates some interesting design ideas.
Raid is a good one. Energy.
Chaz. Boo.
No,
I'm gonna say improvise. I
was
think
a good
improvise is it's really cool because it has the broken aspect of like cheating on costs that we see with Delve, but Wizards actually managed to get it in a pretty fair and fun place where if you really build around it, you can play Herald of Anguish for like 2 mana, but it's not broken like Delve is, where it's just like, oh my god, you're you're casting a 1 mana whatever on turn 2 or turn 3.
I like Enrage too. Enrage is fun.
I actually like Energy. It's cool to have another resource to manage. It's not cool because it's too good, but from our Sassfeld as well, Hascon brought a ton of hype for Iconic Masters. Am sure even more than WotC imagined. Is it possible WotC thought this would make LGS's raise pack costs like the original Modern Masters, and that's why they put them in big box stores to indirectly control the second market? So WotC thought that they would, or LGSs would sell packs at over MSRP, so to combat that, they put them in big box stores.
Huh.
I mean, I guess that's possible. It seems more likely to me that they just kind of threw together the set for Hascon and didn't think it through all the way and just kind of ended up flailing through the release of it. But I guess it's possible that it was intentional.
Yeah, I really don't know. I think they just want to try and sell as much as possible.
Yeah.
I did notice I had to stop at my Walmart yesterday and they were restocked. They were completely out of Iconic Masters like a week ago, and it was completely restocked yesterday. So,
All right, next question. Interplanar MTG. How come series like Mucha Brew and Budget Magic get separate videos for deck tech in each match, while Against the Odds gets a deck tech and all games in one video?
the biggest reason is the editing's a lot faster on Against the Odds, and the decks are sometimes really bad, and, and people don't want to click through 5 separate videos of a really bad deck, so it works better to mash Against the Odds together and just edit it really quickly so we can get by the boring, lossing parts of it. Losing, I guess, is probably a more correct word than lossing.
69 Griggs 420. If there was a complete cycle of Orberg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, what dead characters would represent each other color? Oof.
Oh.
I don't even know the dead
don't.
characters. Who's dead right now?
I'm gonna go with Freylise for.
Yo,
the green
Freylise
one.
is dead?
Yeah.
Wasn't she just a commander like 2
No,
years
but
ago?
they highlight characters that are no longer in the story. Like Miri's dead.
Oh, okay.
Miri's dead.
Wait, like,
Are
they
all the old
literally
characters
according
dead?
to like the story, or are they just not
then
like
they
active?
made like Ajani's brother. Like he's dead.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
Ajani's
Elspeth
brother.
is dead, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Elspeth
Elspeth.
is dead.
Elspeth could be the
I'm not
white
convinced
one.
she's actually dead though, but yeah, she's dead. Venser is dead.
Yeah. They made commander cards that of characters that like even Ob Nixilis. They made like the human version before it was a demon.
I don't think you'd necessarily have to have tombs though to make it a cycle. Like I think you could have just like I don't know.
Yeah, like a.
I don't think it
temple.
would have to be a dead character to make a
I
cycle.
mean, the
for
tomb is a very
Woods.
black thing, right? Like having a tomb generate white mana would be a little weird.
Yeah, I believe Freylise is dead. Like, don't quote me on that. I'm not like versed in the story as much as I used to be.
All right, I'm gonna
Oh,
go
don't
with
worry.
Orborg,
YouTube will let us know.
Tomb
Yes,
of Urza.
sure.
It's a plains, island, mountain, forest, swamp. Tap to add any mana to your mana pool. It's like a 5-color land, fetchable.
That would be busted.
Yes, it would. That's why it's Urza's.
Urza needs a good land after getting such a horrible planeswalker that we
Oh,
still
you don't
know what
know
it
if he's bad or
does.
not. You don't know his abilities until Friday, Seth. You can't judge him. Next question. PJ Toms 9667. Have you seen how terribly YouTube closed captions MTG videos? Occasionally I watch with subtitles to placate my wife, and it's hilariously close/wrong.
Yes, YouTube does not like magic words.
Does it not like magic words, or does it not like Seth's pronunciation of magic words?
Ooh. I think
A little of both.
I think it's both too, but I think that's definitely outside of Magic, just Magic videos too. I've watched some videos where the captions are horrendously bad.
I thought they're like, so they can be auto-generated or you can just manually upload them, right?
Yes.
So sometimes the captions are actually really good because they were done manually, but sometimes they're just auto-generated and just totally random. Next question, Matt's what variance means sometimes you play games that just don't go your way, but how do top pros seem to avoid this by putting up results in back-to-back-to-back tournaments? How does Paulo top 8 like every single tournament?
I don't know.
I think it just feels that way because
Yeah.
if you look at like a pro tour or some events, there's always a group of platinum pros that just scrub out as well. So I also think that they're just really good at Magic. Like someone like Paulo wins a lot because he's probably better than the people he's playing against to help overcome the variance. Do you remember the Pro Tour where he mulled the 5 and still won? Like, sometimes you just get a little lucky and you're better than your opponent and you can still win through the variance.
All right, next question. Control for days. I've been playing Ascanta Friends quite a bit. I dropped Watley and Dovin, went up to the blue-green Nissan and Johnny. Also have 4 Fatals in sideboard. It runs really well, but still has trouble with Remnap Red. Any advice? And what is the best way to get a deck on Fishbowl?
So for Fishbowl, you can always just email me decks, saffronolive at mtggoldfish.com, or leave them in the YouTube comments. Either way, I will see them. As far as the deck, that's a tough matchup. Fatal Push is a good idea. Maybe some more life gain, some Sunscorched Champions or something could maybe help shore it up. But that is going to be a challenging matchup for a deck that's overloaded with Planeswalkers.
Wish the other green Nissa was still legal.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Next question. Canadian Crawler. Could a red, green, white Dino Tribal deck be competitive in Commander? Define
don't know.
competitive.
I really don't know if there's enough dinosaurs yet. Like, I know they went back and errated a couple of the creatures from the past to turn them into dinosaurs, but I don't actually know if there's enough of them.
There's technically enough, but you have to play some pretty underpowered.
Yeah.
I think someone on Commander Clash played it, and you kind of get down to like the draft common
Right.
dinosaurs, and you got to play them just to have enough dinosaurs. So
Oh, right,
as
I
far as
remember that
competitive,
episode.
I think it's your play group. I think if you're in a rather casual play group, like the Commander Clash play group, then yes, I think you can build a dinosaur deck that's competitive. But if people are playing spiky combo decks and stuff, I don't know if it's possible to build a competitive dinosaur deck.
I don't know. Like, I'm sure you would have to lean on changelings a lot more. But if it was just like traditionally dinosaur, like not counting changelings, yeah, I think it would be pretty hard. But I mean, some of the changelings are good, definitely good enough.
All right, Simon Sorestrand. Hi, Goldfish Crew. What price progression
Hello.
can I expect for Iconic Masters, Elish Norn, and Grove of the Burn Willows? Should I sell/trade as soon as possible or wait it out?
Elish Norn is an interesting one, but when it comes to cards like Grove of the Burn Willows, Horizon Canopy, stuff like that, I'd be more interested in holding those. Basically because they're cheap enough. I mean, you released an article, I think was yesterday, Seth, or today?
Yeah,
Talking
last
about,
night.
they're like 50% off, more than 50% off already. So they've taken a considerable dive in terms of their price. At this point, I'd rather I wouldn't trade them away. Elish Norn's probably a little different. I probably would trade Elish Norn away if you're not going to use that card, because it's not like as much of a staple as like Grove of the Burn Willows could be. So I would definitely hold on to a card like Grove of the Burn Willows at this point.
I agree. I think that the biggest reason to hold on to Grove is that it doesn't really see play right now in Modern, but there's always a chance, like, if they unban Punishing Fire, or even if just Red-Green Tron becomes popular again over Green-Black Tron or Green-White Tron, then it could suddenly be really in demand and go up in price. So I think it's worth holding Grove. Elish Norn, kind of meh, do whatever you want. I don't think it's going to spike, but I don't think it's going to drop a ton from where it is, so
Yeah.
I don't think it really matters.
That's largely the thing. Like the thing from Iconic Masters, I guess overall, is that it did really drastically reduce the prices of a lot of the cards. I mean, some of the cards you highlighted, Seth, over 50% like reduction
Yeah.
in price. I mean, it's kind of absurd. So at this point, you really have nothing to lose from holding on to those kind of cards.
All right, next question. Salt Priest, how did the crew get together? Greetings from Germany.
Greetings. Well, this was before. I mean, this was when, this was before Goldfish was actually, moving into content, right, Richard? And I remember you kind of throwing the feelers out there of trying to get some content on for the website, and that's kind of how you and Seth kind of hooked up. I believe we've gone into this in the past, and that's kind of. And then I made a suggestion of a podcast. And we normally just talk. I mean, back then it was more kind of just financial. Then it kind of grew into, well, through the fish mail, really. Just kind of covering everything related to Magic. And normally we just talk about Magic. I mean, and financial stuff. And we don't normally talk about, we just kind of keep it to the card game itself.
Yeah, Chaz was like, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And I'm like, okay. And I was like, Seth, do you want to join us on the podcast? And he was like, okay. And then here we
Sure.
are 151 episodes later.
Yes, pretty much.
There
That was
wasn't
a
a
very
real
short
good
version.
story about it. That's
really
literally
wasn't a
how it
great
happened.
But yeah.
Next question. Desinohe, what MTG art, if ever, would you consider getting a tattoo of?
I don't think I'd do it.
I couldn't. No.
I wouldn't do it, but what would you get a tattoo of?
That is a tough one. I have no idea.
Blood Moon. Blood Moon would actually be a
That would
decent
be pretty
tattoo.
What would
cool.
that even be? Just like a moon?
The moon, yeah.
Oh, that might be confused with the Death Star or something. I don't know. It's too ambiguous. I'm gonna go with Phyrexian Mana.
That'd be pretty cool.
It's like pretty subtle. Like if you don't know what magic is, you'd be like, oh yeah, cool design. But then if you knew, you'd be like, oh, I know this guy. He likes to Gitaxian probe. Get away from him. Would you do a Black Lotus?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Would you do the color pie, like the 5 mana symbols?
I'd rather get a card, I think, than the mana symbols.
Orzhov?
If I was going to do
Orzhov Guild? Is it Guild? Any of the Ravnica guilds?
it. Maybe Long Tusk Club, just as a reminder how much I hate it.
You should
How about
just get one
Evercool?
of-
Just like
Yeah.
Evercool across your entire back, like full body.
Just put Aetherworks Marvel on it.
You show up and you find out Evercool's been banned. You're like, no, no.
All right, well, this is gonna be awkward, but I need a back tattoo removed.
All right, next question. Random Dark Rider. So, what do you guys think of Stigma Lasher's playability in Commander or Modern? She's a pretty unique effect since there's no way to remove it. What is Stigma Lasher?
Stigma Lasher was from Eventide. It's a 2 red. It's a 2/2. It has Wither, I believe. And when Stigma Lasher deals combat damage to a player, that player can't gain life for the rest of the game.
That sounds right to me.
Yep, that is exactly what it is.
Nice. Yeah, I got it. Oh, that was a long time ago, Eventide. Was it a
think-
myth? Wait, is that a mythic?
It's a rare.
No, it was a rare. There was no mythics back then, right?
Yeah, that was before Mythics, I think.
right. Yeah, Alara was the block after that. Okay, got it.
I think the problem is there's just other options. You have
Yeah.
like Skullcrack. You have Leyline of Punishment. So that if you're trying to keep your opponent from gaining life, there's other options that aren't as fragile as a 2/2
Yeah.
for 2. So I don't know.
Is it? Like Stigma Lasher is fine, and they don't have that type. You're right. I mean, the person asking the question, they don't have that kind of effect all too often. But I believe there is a enchantment in the same block, Everlasting Torment, that I always kind of felt was pretty much does that job. And like Seth said, I mean, it's not as fragile.
I like it for Commander though, because you can hit
Stigma
someone with
Lasher?
it and like
Yeah.
that's it, right? They can't remove that effect. They just cannot gain life anymore. Whereas with enchantments and stuff, they can eventually remove it and gain the life they need. So I think Modern
it
is
could be
too
sweet
weak,
in
but
Commander.
I think Commander, it has some uses. Next question. MTG today. Hey guys, I've been hearing a lot about potential ban on the Tune with Ether. What do you guys think about banning a card out of Teamer that actually gives them absurd in-game flexibility and reach instead? Whirler Virtuoso.
I don't know if Whirler Virtuoso would
Eh,
solve the problems
yeah.
of energy.
I think it has to be attuned with the Aether.
I think that's really the card that makes energy tick.
Yeah,
I think
it
that
has
would
to
really
be.
knock it down a bit.
But I mean, Whirler Virtuoso gives them like unlimited chump blocks, gives them a way to defend in the air. I could see an argument for this as well. But I think
Maybe
Attune
both.
is safer because Attune hits every energy deck,
Right.
whereas Whirler Virtuoso only hits the red
They just,
decks.
but then they just replace Whirler Virtuoso with some other just decent card. Like,
Yeah, and plus,
Yeah,
if
it's
you
a
ban
good
Whirler
card.
Virtuoso, then how do I make Infinite Thopters with Panharmonicon? You don't want to take that away from me.
all right, okay, but yeah, I think it has to be attuned. I think.
All right, next question. Control for days. What makes Ixalan's binding better than Gideon's intervention, especially if you can play it and name approach or anything else before it even hits the battlefield?
That is a good question. I remember you talking about this, Seth. You had this question, I believe, on your Twitter about binding of Ixalan and Gideon's intervention. And I think we had this question before, but I think binding, just overall, it's maybe not by much, but I feel like overall it just has a bit more of applications than the intervention.
So I think the problem with Gideon's intervention, it is better against spells like Approach. The problem is, if your opponent resolves like a Scarab God and you don't already have down a Gideon's intervention, you still just lose to Scarab God. When, if you have Ixalan's binding, you just binding Scarab God, problem solve forever. So I feel like with Scarab God and I guess it does stop Hazoret, but I feel like the biggest downside is it's not very good at stopping a Scarab God if it's already on the battlefield. And otherwise, I don't know, if the format changed and Approach was like the best deck and Scarab God wasn't a concern, then I definitely see an argument for Gideon's intervention. But as it is, I feel like the Scarab God problem makes binding the better option.
All right, next question from Kale Fax. What are your thoughts on Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, being reprinted in the next core set? Spiked because of humans, sell now, or hold?
I think it'll definitely be reprinted. I don't know if it'll be the core set or a Modern Master set or even a supplemental product, but it's pretty high, I think, on the list of cards to be reprinted in the next year or two.
Yep.
So probably sell, I
Yeah,
guess,
sell
if it's a
for sure.
financial concern.
Yeah.
Wait, are core sets that they're bringing back going to be for beginners or no? Or are they going to be expert level?
I remember we
I
discussed
think they
this.
said they were towards beginners,
Yeah.
but they would include stuff for everyone, but the main focus was
Yeah,
beginners.
like there's
So-
a good percentage geared towards new players, but there's also a percentage that addresses kind of everyone. That
Okay.
There's cards in there for everyone.
All right, from Wolfgang Cloud, I went to my first invitational after qualifying from a face-to-face open. It made me realize that if I want to play Magic competitively, I need to invest in Moto. Should I buy Modern Burn, which is my pet deck in paper, or get a different deck online?
Well, if you're going to play Burn in paper tournaments, I would probably buy Burn on Magic Online and just get in as many reps as possible. And it's like a reasonable deck, and it's not even that expensive as far as decks go on Magic Online, so seems like a good choice.
Definitely.
Yeah, I do the same thing. It makes no sense that you have an expensive paper deck and an expensive online deck that are exactly the same, but if you want to get good at your deck, like, you need to practice it, so you need to have the same deck on Magic Online. So I would just get the same deck on both and just grind away. Next question, Mass Forte. SCG currently is promoting a 50% trade-in bonus, and I have a potential large sum as a result. Any good spec targets worth investing in, or should I wait and bank store credit?
Apart from random reserve list stuff, I would probably wait until after we see what's in 25th Masters before really doing much with standard. Like, standard, there's potential for bannings. Modern, another master set's like 2 or 3 months away. So unless you want to get into the reserve list market, then I would say probably just wait.
Yeah, I think banking store credit is probably the best thing to do right now.
All right, Mr. Ov Lover. WotC has been pushing a lot of special basic lands lately, Standard Showdown, Bolus, Unlands, and none of them are really gaining the value expected, probably due to saturation. do you think older promo lands will soon lose value too?
No, I don't. I think that might actually boost the older promo lands. I know there's been an increase in the like black bordered, like the old like Arabian Nights lands and Alpha and Beta, probably due to this. I mean, there's back when they had these kind of lands and the like the unglued and unhinged like full, textless lands. There weren't that many to contend with, so short of them being reprinted in some way, I don't see how they would do that. I do think it's actually better for the older promos and the older lands.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason the old ones are expensive is they're just super scarce.
Yeah.
There's not that many like Guru lands around or Euro lands or Alpha Beta lands, so I don't think they can really decrease unless they randomly get reprinted. I don't think it's likely, but I also don't think it's impossible with like standard showdown boosters or something. They could just be like, hey, we're going to put Guru lands in here.
Right.
Like, everyone have fun. But that seems like a long shot, I think.
And some
at
of
this
them,
point.
like, how do you really reprint? I mean, you don't really reprint like a Alpha Beta land, and you don't really reprint like an unhinged. I mean, you could, but I just don't see obvious avenues for that.
It would probably have the new border as well, which would mean the originals would probably still... Even if they took the Guru Land art, I think the originals would still be worth a lot just because of the old border and whatnot.
Right.
We didn't talk about this, but what do you think about WotC giving all the players unstable lands for the World Magic Cup? We saw stacks and stacks of lands on Twitter of the new lands. What did you guys think about that? I guess marketing stunt.
Some marketing right there.
I think the players decided on that on their own, and Wizards had nothing to do with it, right?
Yeah. I think there's just a lot of them out there. I just don't think, like, as great as they look, I do personally like them. I don't know how that far they are on anyone's kind of personal list of, lands that they want to use. The foils will be probably retain some price, but there's just a lot of them out there. Like even the unhinged land, to a large varying degree, didn't hold as much of a value as the predecessor from Unglued, and so on and so forth. So I just don't know.
I like the marketing though. I think it's a good move by Wizards to show them off on camera. So I'm fine with that. But I don't think they're going to be worth much.
Yeah, I like that. I think Wizards should do more of that kind of stuff, like supply people with stuff to show off as promotional, because this is the only time we're gonna see unstable on camera anyway, so might as well, right?
Right.
So that's all our fish mail for this week. Thank you everyone for sending them in. Remember to send them to the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks for the questions. I believe that is time for us. And thanks everyone for sending in the questions. Thanks everyone for listening in. And we will see you next time. This is going to be the MTG Goldfish crew signing out.